How are you?
I'm so well. How are you?
I'm doing so well. Thank you so
Oh,
much for chatting with me. This is a real privilege. Uh,
oh, it's such a delight. It's such a joy. I love talking about this film and I love meeting new people about it.
well, I appreciate it.
Mm.
You are wonderful in the film.
Thank
Range
you.
Roads is truly a wonderful piece.
Oh, thanks, Steve. That's so
Um,
kind.
yeah, and I mean it. There is such a humility isn't quite the word I was looking for, but it kind of is at the same time. Like there's a real sense of openness
Hmm.
about you and your character, which is ironic because your character holds a lot in.
Yeah.
Uh, but let me say, first of all, congratulations on your CSA nomination.
Thanks.
That is so exciting.
It's so fun. I was saying to other people that we were talking the film about it. I'm so proud to be a Canadian artist in general. It's so nice to be recognized like on a national level. I was so surprised by it, and it's such an honor just even to be nominated. So thanks, Steve. Yeah, it's super cool.
Yeah, well, I honestly, it
Mm.
was well deserved.
Oh,
It's a
thanks.
very special performance and a special film.
Mm.
Uh,
Thank you.
well, maybe you could tell me a little. What was
Yeah.
it that drew you to the film? Why did you want to be a
Oh,
part of Range
yeah.
Roads?
Yeah, it actually all starts with Kyle Thomas. So Kyle Thomas is the director and the producer of the film, right? And he and I had a small role on one of the first feature films that he made, The Valley Below.
Mm,
And that was the first feature film I'd ever done. Range Road is only the second feature film I've ever been a part of. I do theater. Theater is my career. It's my training. So film and TV is still extremely new to me in my profession. The art's the same, right? But the craft and technicality behind it is so different. So Kyle really opened amazing doors for me with The Valley Below because we got to go to TIFF and everything like that. And more importantly, I just had nothing but respect for Kyle. And Kyle reached out to me a couple of years after The Valley Below and said, "I'd like to work with you again. And I would like you and Joe Perry, who plays Grayson in the film, so Frankie's brother, I'd like the three of us to come up with a story together." So then we spent a couple of years actually collaborating ideas together and writing together. Kyle, of course, is the writer, but he was beautiful about letting us improvise our way through a lot of it. And so that's why I was a part of it. It's all because of Kyle Thomas. I mean, I remember having a drink. He came to see me do the Humans at the Citadel Theater, and he just sat down and we talked about things that we thought would be relevant, which, Steve, as you can imagine, is so different than now. Like, that's the weirdest thing about pre-COVID and post-COVID, right? It's such a different time, but I'm really glad because I still feel like the heart and the family and the journey of self-love that's in Range Roads will stand the test of time, even post-COVID. But yeah, Kyle brought Joe and I on board, and that's where it began. And then a couple of years later, we finally got rolling on it. So he, right from the beginning, invited me to be a part of the story, and I'm so grateful to him for that.
that's amazing. So this was not a case of somebody saying, "Here, here's a
No,
character, read for it." You actually sort of got to help create Frankie
yeah.
and bring her to life. So what was that like for you? Was this a new experience? Well, I know
Oh,
as opposed to film, I mean, just even in theater, creating something.
yeah. Yeah, it was a new experience because a lot of my career, I started my career at the Stratford Shakespeare Festival in Ontario. So my career wasn't fringe and collective creation, right? Nothing but respect to artists that do that. It's amazing. But my career was very much like, here's your role, do a good job of it, right? Do it justice. So it was totally wild. And I honestly, Steve, like, I think I floundered a bit in it. And I look back now, and you always see things that you would shift and want to improve in the story. But it was Kyle's baby. He was just kind enough to go, I think that this would make it better if the actors are involved.
Mm,
And I have to tell you, when we shot this film, I had twins and they were 8 months old when we filmed this film. So I don't remember like the preamble. I think you
anything.
said that your family. I don't remember anything. Like, I remember being so pregnant and so unwell and like talking to Kyle about the film and the final kind of writing of it. And it was just chaos. And then when we were filming it, I don't remember the first year of the kid's life. You know what I mean? Like, so it's in this weird haze, but the entire experience and approach is, even for film and TV, it's really almost unheard of unless you are, an A-list celebrity or a producer yourself,
Mm.
where you go, okay, this is the approach we're going to take, which people do now, right? There's beautiful celebrities that are producers and they make their films that way. But for somebody that was in my position to be offered that opportunity, no, never before. And so it was really cool. And it's really weird where Frankie ended up because is not at all like me. Like, even I know some people ask, is this kind of autobiographical? And because they're like, oh, acting's hard. Was your journey like that? And I was like, no, no, like, knock on wood. But I mean, acting's not for the faint of heart, but I've been nothing but blessed and never did film and TV until, later on. So it's weird where Frankie came from. I still kind of don't know what she grew out of, honestly.
Well, that was one of the interesting things I thought about the
Yeah.
film. One of the things I loved is there's no great moment where, and by great I mean grand moment, where you get a 5-minute monologue of "Do you know what happened to me?"
Yeah.
And it, like, we get these hints and whispers, and we get the sense that Frankie is wearing this weight on her shoulders. We
Yeah.
know that there's tension with her brother. And even the moment when she's talking with her brother, and he says, "Why'd you even come back?" And he says, "I'm not here for you. Like, I'm not here for you," essentially. Um,
Yeah.
what is it that you think Frankie is looking for?
Oh my gosh, I think she's looking for what everybody's looking for. So, and maybe that's an unfair statement, but
Mm,
that was our approach to it. When we talked about writing the story, we talked about an every man or every woman perspective, right? And it's that idea to me of searching for a community, a sense of belonging, and more importantly, self love. Because if somebody's running away from something, which I'm very familiar with this, right? Not in the way Frankie was, but I feel like every human being I talk to understands that journey to self acceptance, right, Steve? And
mm,
Frankie's just happened to be, regarding her family and running away from her past. But to me, it's just, yeah, it's that story about learning to accept yourself, and rather than to shut down around traumas or shame, to open up, to unearth it, to approach it, and then move forward with that. But like you said, Kyle, he's beautiful. I remember when he was generous enough to let me look at the script, and the actor in me, I was like, "Oh, is it boring? I'm worried it's boring. Like, where's the entertainment? Where's the breakthrough moment?" And he just kind of laughed, and he's like, "That's not the kind of film I'm creating." So he knew from the get-go, that stillness you talked about, that no grandiose moment. There's no, even at the end, not to, spoiler alert, but there, life goes on. And I just love him because he creates these slice of life films where you're like, this isn't Hollywood, and it's not Disney. And we make tiny little steps along the way in our life that hopefully guide us down a path that just strengthens who we are and those around us, right?
mm.
So, yeah, Kyle totally knew those moments. And to me, I just was like, yeah, everybody can relate to self acceptance. Let's go. And that's kind of where the journey began and saw itself through to the end, I think. Yeah.
And maybe, as I was saying before, I think maybe that's what I was. There is a sense of honesty about the piece. It's just sort of
Good.
unraveling ahead in front of you.
Yeah.
But if you do want to mess with Kyle a little bit, you can say that it needed a car chase.
Yeah.
And
Just like Frankie running after a car with Grayson in it. It
yeah,
did need a car chase. No, it
and a
is
bank robbery. Something, let's
right.
really go for it.
Range Road's the sequel. We'll do
That's
that.
right. That's right.
Yeah, but it is funny, right? Because it's one of those things where it's not a formula-based script. And I know what, I was reading about you, Steve, and like you know what I mean when I say that. Like, it doesn't follow that formula. And so it's really neat, the audience reception of it, because some people, even my father-in-law, bless him, but he's very much like A happens, then B, then C, right? And so he was like, I liked your performance. Not quite sure what the film was about. And bless you, my father-in-law, if you ever see or hear or read this. But it was really funny, and I kind of just laughed and turned to my partner and went, yeah, the film's not that's not the target audience. Or if it is, maybe that will redefine what their version of art is in regards to screen.
Mm,
But Kyle doesn't, his work is so slice of life, and like you said, the honesty, even the tone of it, it's slow, but that's what moment to moment usually is, right? It's moment to moment. It's slow, it's breath by breath. And yeah, I mean, I felt he really captured that in the film in the end. And I love, my favorite thing about it is that end, the end where everything's changed and nothing's changed all at the same
yes.
time.
Yes, absolutely. I love that about the ending.
Yeah.
It feels like there's been progression, and yet
Nothing.
everything is the same
She
as at the beginning of the
Yep.
film.
Yeah, and you just think about that, like you can have somebody in a job that they hate, and they go through this massive life experience, and that gem, that spirit, that soul inside of them has grown so much and will never go back, but
Mm,
they still go back to that dead on job, they still pay the bills, you still, it's the human journey. It's so I find such beauty in that, because I think so many times, particularly when I work with youth, or I'm a mother now, myself, we see people that their lives are so destroyed because of social media, right, Steve? Like things that they see where they think that they need to live this fairy tale life. And
Yeah.
it's so important, I believe, to show art where you go, that's pretend. That is pretend. Some people might experience that,
Yeah.
but real life is much, much more about just the moment to moment and challenge after challenge after challenge, right?
Yeah,
So yeah.
absolutely. One of the things about this film that I thought was really fascinating was there's sort of a theme of masks.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you could talk about that, and like about with Frankie, but also, do you feel like we all sort of wear masks to a certain extent? You already talked about social media, but
Oh yeah.
all this stuff that it's really she goes on, she puts on her makeup, has to smile for the camera.
Oh yeah.
Really
No, Steve, come on. I think it's one of the biggest problems in our culture.
mm,
Um, if not the biggest, well, one of the biggest problems. 100%. It's so funny as I get older. I was actually talking to my sister. I have a really wicked, awesome older sister, and I was saying to her, one of the few things, we're all tough on ourselves, but one of the few things I'm proud of myself in the last kind of 5 years of my life is just practicing being more authentic. Because even, I don't know if you find this in your line of work, but even coming on to these things today, I'm always like, okay, Alana, be real. Like, don't sound like, don't have to be anything you aren't, and it's tough. And when I was first trained as an actor, that was not my training.
mm,
And when I was told what to wear and how to look and how to be in an audition room, that was not my training. I was even of, it's not that long ago, but I was even of that generation where I was told that if I didn't have the lollipop factor, so if I wasn't so thin that my head looked like a lollipop, I'd never work. So yeah. So for me to approach work now and just be like, this is it. It's a really beautiful blessing. And I feel like the more people, like I can feel it through you, Steve, even through the screen, the more people that don't wear those masks, that practice that authenticity, then they inspire that in others. So I'm hoping there's a massive cultural shift, but I don't know, it might go in the other direction. And in this film, yeah, Frankie literally, like literally and metaphorically puts on that mask, but her whole life is a mask. And it's the unmasking of that. It's the taking away the cover of protection,
mm.
right, that she's put on herself, and then learning to see herself without it and see what that does. And I think that's terrifying. And I think that some people go through their whole life without taking off that armor. You know, I
Yeah.
have the joy of teaching. I teach acting now when I'm not gigging. So every now and then I'll accept a contract at various places. And some place I'm at right now is Douglas College in Vancouver. And I'm teaching acting to these students that range anywhere from kind of 18 to like, I think 54, this beautiful, wonderful 54-year-old woman. But we constantly talk. The first thing in first year acting is talking about taking away the mask, taking away your armor, right? Just learning how to, even if you don't do it in society, how do you get rid of it as a performer so you work as your true authentic self? And it is so hard.
Mm.
It is so hard for even these 18-year-olds, right? To be like, who am I without this protective mask that I've built for myself, right? So I hear you. I think that's so beautiful. And it's all through Range Roads. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's got to be a difficult process too, to sort of bring yourself on screen. You're playing someone else, but bring
Yeah.
yourself and be you as someone else has got to be such a challenge.
It's such a delight, really. It's only it's a challenge when they're not happy people, right? Because film and theater are so different. I'm learning, like theater, if you're doing 300 shows of something, you go in, you warm up, you kind of take on the role, then you cool down and let it go and go back to parenting or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
But film, you don't. You're submerged in something, for 30 days, 3 months. So it's like you slip into that and then just stay in it.
Mm.
And Frankie, like, you don't want to paste it, but she's sad. And so it was really interesting to live, I think it was only 27 days because this was, more of a smaller budget film, but it was really interesting to live with that mindset. And it's interesting to parent 8-month-old twins, like to
Yeah.
breastfeed when you're feeling, in the mindset of somebody that's not even close to being a mother. It was really weird. It was a fascinating journey, but it's also the best. Like, are you kidding me? It's the total best. It's
Oh,
it's my addiction. Yeah.
it's
Totally.
a good one to have.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's a good one to have. Yeah.
Alana, I want to be sensitive of your time, but just before we go, I have one
Mm,
more question
yeah.
for you.
Oh, it's such a pleasure.
I was wondering, I mean, with everything we've talked about here and your involvement in the character, how does a story like this affect you personally? What do you bring away from your experience in a film like this?
Yeah, the biggest thing, it's that's such a great question. Thank you for having such beautiful questions.
Mm.
The biggest thing we actually already touched on, and it's that idea of self-acceptance. I can't remember who said this to me. I use it all the time now, but I think Ruby Joy, who was a fellow actress, now turned lawyer, haha, but she used to use the term radical self-acceptance.
Mm.
And I really feel like so much of Frankie's journey is figuring out what radical self-acceptance is. And I remember finishing the film and kind of sitting on it for a week and like letting that fade and going, right, like life is not what we think it's going to be often. Life isn't pretty often. It's got beautiful moments, but it's not that fairy tale. And so how can you derive joy and happiness in recognizing the ups and downs of reality?
Mm.
Um, and it's funny, I don't know, I should talk to more people who aren't artists, because of course my community is inundated with them, but uh, it, there's this horrible feeling often as an actor where you're constantly seeking and what you do isn't enough, right? You're constantly trying to get more. You even hear people win an Oscar and then they're like, well, now I got to do this. It's just this perverse respect to those feelings, but this perverse, really twisted, joy robbing point of view. And it's really pervasive in the industry.
Mm.
And so that's the biggest thing that I'm taking away from it is just going, enjoy the small things, be grateful that you have a job that you're obsessed with and that you love, and stop reaching for something. What if we just started loving the things that's right in front of us?
Mm.
So that's what I learned from Frankie the most, and that's what I'm still every day work on. As I reach for something, I'm like, nope, 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 just sit right here. I think I'll be working on that till like I'm 86, Steve. So, but that's the gift she gave me. That's the gift Kyle Thomas gave me. The only reason I'm honestly doing this is or got to do this is because of Kyle. So that's the gift Kyle gave me. Yeah.
I appreciate that. I appreciate your honesty and your openness. I wish you the best of luck
Thank
with the
you.
CSAs. It is well deserved, and
Oh,
I really do
thanks.
appreciate the chance to chat with you. Thank you so much, Alana. I really
Oh,
appreciate it.
thank you. Thanks for supporting this film. Like again, because it's a smaller budget, an Albertan, a Canadian film, even it needs all the support and love it can get. So from our heart to yours, thank you for putting the words of Range Roads out there, Steve. And so nice to talk to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It means a lot.